Hey, how you doing out there, survivors, and welcome back to the second episode of The Hidden Gems, a new component here on the channel where we reach out to other content creators, streamers, and just wonderful people that I've found through the community that is Twitch and other places. And we talk about very special games that have like a big connection to these people and why you, the viewer, should play these games. So today I'm delighted to be joined by a friend that I met over on Twitch. You may have seen a couple of my reaction videos on here to this guy's amazing challenge run content, and that is Hayete Bahadori. Hayete, how you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. Thanks for having me, man. As always, salute to you, bud. Thank you so much.
Anytime. I love any chance we get to have an interaction and hang out. Like it's awesome hanging out and stream and chatting in the chat, but anytime I get to sit down and have a face-to-face with you, it's a welcome time.
Happy to do it, man. Thanks for having me, dude.
It's funny because up until I think I reached out to you about this show, I hadn't really set a hard definition for what we would be considering a hidden gem on this show. And I remember when you first pitched the game that we're going to talk about to me, I was like, would that qualify? And it made me reevaluate a lot of like, okay, well, what does constitute a hidden gem? And with all of that being said, I'll let you introduce the game that you're going to be talking about, and I'll talk a little bit more after that.
Yeah, so and maybe I'm just one of those outliers, you know, like one of those people that was like just came up with a really funky idea for what this was. But for me, it was Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMORPG, and we'll go into it, but essentially it's an MMO that you get to create and customize your own adventure, your own story, and you get to live in one of my absolutely favorite periods of Star Wars, which is the Old Republic. So
absolutely,
again, it might be an outlier, but it's just me.
So to kind of quickly chime in then, at first I was like, would that qualify, would that quantify? And then the more I thought about it, I thought, I know a lot of people like me that are almost like scared of MMOs or like not into MMOs. It's not a subgenre or whatever that I'm like drawn to. I will say that that's changing recently because I've started to get into Final Fantasy. Like Final Fantasy is like my big love, and I've started to get into Final Fantasy 14, and I can now understand how people get consumed by these things. But when I thought about it, I thought, you know what? There's probably a lot of people who don't play MMOs, and if this conversation makes someone like me or someone like them go, you know what? I'd like to give that game a try. Then we've succeeded. That's the way I think about this episode.
Yeah. I mean, when you get down to it, right? Like when you think about it, MMO is just massively multiplayer online, right? Yeah. Like it's a game that's online surrounded by a bunch of people, but and there are, you know, you're a game developer at one time, so you understand there are certain implications there in what you can and cannot do to have like a good experience, right? But at the core of it, it's a Star Wars game.
Yeah.
Like you're still shooting blasters and swinging sabers, and it's a fantastic time. I really enjoy it.
So with that being said, I mean, I think kind of touch a little bit on it there, but like, can you kind of give us a basic overview of the Old Republic as a whole?
Yeah, so it's a very narrative-driven game. I don't want to go as far as to say it's one of those your choices matter type things, but you do have choice. How far and to the extent that they matter, that's debatable, but you do have choice. So in the moments of going through these stories, you're able to make a choice for you that feels meaningful. But yeah, so you're able to basically experience 8 different stories in this game. They kind of divvy it up into different classes. So you have 2 factions. You have the Republic and you have the Empire, right? The 2 quintessential factions in anything Star Wars, it seems. So you've got the 2 factions, and then within them you've got classes. And each one of those classes, there's 4 on each side, and each one of those gives you a unique story that intertwine and interconnect into the other ones.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, aside from that, anyone who's ever played Knights of the Old Republic, it gives you a similar feeling of you get to make choices. Those choices do tend to be at points light side or dark side choices. And those actively affect your character. Even down to the look of your character. Say you go straight dark side, you can actually end up with Sith eyes. Your skin will start to pale. Like, it has an effect on your actual character. You get to run around with companions, similar to how you did in Knights of the Old Republic. You know, you get to have a companion, and each one of those companions has a storyline that progresses in parallel with your character's story, and even beyond the story into the expansions and different things like that, which I'm not going to touch too heavily on. I'm going to kind of keep it to like the free content for the game, for, you know, that way it doesn't scare anyone away who might, you know, watch this.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the core of it, it is a story, a narrative driven, very much single player in a lot of regards, online MMO type game where you get to live your own Star Wars story. And it's fantastic, man. It really is. It's a great game.
That's really got me interested because, I'll put it this way, before I played Final Fantasy XIV, I thought MMOs, what I thought of, I guess, was, I don't know, Guild Wars or like the handful. WoW. I think everybody thinks of WoW. Yeah, exactly. Everybody thinks of WoW. And while I appreciate that WoW is a phenomenal game, it wouldn't have the accolades that it does if it wasn't. What I always found was it's not, it does have a story and it does have lore, but I've never found it to be like a fantastic, compelling narrative that, like, for me, like, because I think it's even the way they guide you into it is a bit too like, now get 6 duck eggs, bring the duck eggs back, get 8 of these things, bring them back.
I love that you said that, because Star Wars: The Old Republic does have those MMO roots where it's like, oh, you need to kill this many enemy or you need to do this. But one of the things, I'm an old WoW player. I played WoW from Burning Crusade up until The Old Republic came out in 2011. I was like, my main game is WoW. I'm playing an MMO. You put the words MMO and Star Wars side by side. Bye, guys. I'm going over to SOTOR. So I left World of Warcraft. I think it was December 11th. Somewhere you could fact check it later, but December 11th, somewhere around, December 2011.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. When the game came out, and I jumped ship, like put myself in a cannon and launched me over to SOTOR from WoW. Jumped ship and played the game for years. You know, and one of the things that I loved, you know, having the experience of WoW, and something in WoW that just never gripped me the way Star Wars did, was in WoW when you would go do those quests, when you would go do those things, it would pop up with a thing, and now you as the player have to read through it, and me, I'm like, dude, I don't have time for that crap. I'm just accept, and then I would go grab stuff without really any idea of why the hell I was doing it, right? I was just doing it so I could get experience to level and get my next ability, right? Which is kind of all MMOs. But for Star Wars, the entire game is voice acted. The entire thing. Every mission, every quest, every single thing that you pick up to do is voice acted by characters. So you sit there and you're watching the dialogue, you're watching what this means, and then you go do it. And when you turn it in, there's dialogue. Like, the whole game being dialogue was just, I'm like getting goosebumps, like thinking about it. But like at the time, it was insane. And I remember when the game was, pre-launch, they were hyping it up, starting to do, different drives to promote the game. That was one of the single biggest things that they were promoting, was that this was one of the most expensively developed games because every line was voice acted. When you factor in what you've said, that there's these different characters, different choices, different branching, like that must have been, to be fair, one of the most ambitious I was going to say MMOs ever, but I mean, for that amount, for voice acting talent, it had to. This also explains why many of the voice actors that I've had on
were in the Old Republic because they probably needed like every voice actor on the face of the planet.
Let me do a plug. Let me do a plug and a thank you to someone who actually on Twitter did a birthday greeting for one of the guys that I'm friends with on Twitter, or sorry, on Twitch, but he did it on Twitter. The voice, when I say his name, you're gonna know it. David Hayter.
Oh, wow.
The voice of Solid Snake.
Oh my God.
If you choose to go down the Jedi Knight story path and you choose a male character, that's your voice.
Okay, well now I'm going playing it. Now that's no, like you've won me over now.
That's
I don't know how
your
many
voice. That's what you get to hear.
But yeah, to quickly say, what really brought me over and what you were saying is the fact that it felt like a single player experience, because that's what I started to enjoy about Final Fantasy 14 was I was like, okay, I can play this as a massively multiplayer on an experience with loads of other people, or I can kind of lock into the quests and do a lot of stuff myself, and yeah, some of the higher tiered stuff might be out of my reach, but then I'll deal with that when I come to it. For now, I'm just enjoying this game and enjoying my own solo experience of it.
And that's very much, excuse me, that's very much Star Wars: The Old Republic. Now, let me caveat and preface with, I haven't played the game day in, day out since about 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
So the game has grown a little bit. But the core of the game, what I'm talking to you about and kind of, I guess, promoting in a way, is what's never been changed, because it was the core launch storylines, and all of that stuff is 100% able to be done without interacting with anyone else. The only time you would even see any other people is if you go to the hubs, or you go, you're running on the planet and you happen to cross somebody, right?
Yeah.
So like when you're doing those 8 unique stories, you literally can just put your hood up, put your headphones on, and just enjoy the experience without depending on anyone else. It very much is a single player game at that point. Very much so. That's
definitely, as I say, I like, the more we talk about this, the more I'm just like, okay, so as soon as this finishes, download the Old Republic and start playing it. Which, as I say, that's the whole purpose of this. But yeah, I was going to ask next, like, about your connection to the game, because you have talked a bit about, like, but like, I do know a little bit from being a fan of yours on Twitch and reading like a little bit in your header and then going off and doing a little bit of research. I'm not a stalker, I swear. I just like to do my research.
That's fine.
And I would have to do a bit of research, and I saw people within the Old Republic community being like, where's Hayete Bahadori? He was our savior. He was the one, guys. He was our Neo.
Oh, God. Yeah, so my, like I told you, when the game came out, I jumped ship immediately. And I went into it at the time that I was playing WoW. I was a pretty high-ranked PvP player in World of Warcraft. I played a rogue. And so I kind of brought that over to the game. And when I got to the game, I had no desire to do PvP. I didn't want to. And that kind of shocked me, because I'd never been like a PvE player. So I got into the game and just... I'm one of those people where if you give me the choice to be a good guy or a bad guy, I'm one of those weird people that just always chooses to go good guy.
Okay, phew. I don't consider you that weird then, because I'm notorious for that as well. I'm like, I feel like such an asshole going the bad guy route. I always end up kind of making the good guy choices.
Yeah, no, like for me, it's like, that's how if I had these amazing abilities and I was able to use the Force or whatever, that's what I would aspire to be. That's just my personality. And again, you know this, Paddy, from my time in the military and law enforcement. I just feel like it's a personality trait. I don't really have another explanation for it. But I got into it and I said, I want to be a Jedi Knight. And when you go into the Jedi Knight storyline, it gives you every single one of those 8 options, gives you 2 options within it. And those are your classes, right? So when you go into the Jedi Knight, you get to choose to be a Jedi Guardian or a Jedi Sentinel. Now, the Jedi Guardian is more of like the protector type, the tank type, they do have attacking abilities and things like that, but they're more of like your tank, whereas the Sentinel was more of the DPS character, and that was what I was familiar with. But my big sell was when I brought it up and they give you these like really iconic looking images. There was a Jedi standing like this. Well, I guess you can't see my other hand, standing like this with 2 sabers, and I was sold. So I got into the game. I played it, and somewhere along the way, I decided I wanted to try and do end game PvE content rating, right? Which they call operations in SOTOR. I wanted to get into ops. I wanted to get into the hardest content in the game and try it out.
That's weird. That doesn't sound like you at all.
Yeah. At the time, it wasn't. That's the crazy thing. That's why this game is such a defining moment in my like journey as a gamer, because it really brought me over into a side of gaming that I had never thought to put myself into. And so like I started doing the operations and learning and really studied and practiced. And as an engineer at the time, I was a studying engineer. I was in university and schooling and doing all that.
Yeah.
The MMOs have a very inherent mathematical base to it. You've got cooldowns, you've got rotations. Each ability has a certain time attached to it. And so that really intrigued me. And so I started taking what I was learning at university and applying it. And long story short, over time, I ended up getting world rank 1 in DPS for every single person in the world that was actually sharing. There might have been somebody that wasn't sharing, that was better than me. But at the time, for everyone that was sharing, I got world rank 1, and I was just like, oh my God. And then I started getting flooded with questions. How are you doing this? What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. So I ended up writing a guide, which you can still find to this day on dolphin.net. I think it was the 3.0 guide. And then I wrote the 4.0, and I think I left right around the time 5.0 came out for the game, and now they're in 6. But I wrote a guide, and I was one of the first people in SOTOR period to come up with an infinitely repeatable rotation that was what we call in the MMO world min-maxed, which means it's as good as it can get. There's no way to be better than that. And I just kind of stumbled on it in doing all the math and stuff like that for the rotations when I was trying to figure out how to do it. So, I just kind of took off from there, and over the 3 years or whatever, I, wrote the guides, like I said, and I put up a website, which is no longer alive now. I stopped it once I left the game. But I had a website where anybody could access those guides. They could access different content. I put all my YouTube content up there. And then I gave people the ability to reach out to me and email me one-on-one and ask me questions. And back to what you were saying with the community, I think that's why the community was as appreciative of what I did, was because probably 3,000 to 4,000 people, and I'm not exaggerating that, that's an estimate, but 3,000 to 4,000 people over the course of 3 years, I sat down with one-on-one and would say, what do you need help with? And I will coach you. I was just about
to say coaching. Yeah, you effectively mentored and coached people.
Yeah, and that was something that I took into my time in Overwatch when I was playing Overwatch, what I do now with the challenge running on Twitch. Like, it all started with Star Wars The Old Republic. All of it.
I mean, I love hearing this stuff because, again, like from getting to know you on Twitch and everything, you're such a well, I guess generous person with the knowledge that you build up and acquire and things like that. A lot of people would I guess if you're streaming it, you kind of have to be, because people are going to be there watching it. But what I mean is, like, you will stop and you will break it down for somebody and explain why you're doing what you're doing. You won't just kind of be like, oh, if you know, you know. You know what I mean? And I think that that's a very endearing quality, and especially to somebody playing a massive multiplayer online game, which have these, like, as you say, like, they can be quite daunting or quite trying to get to that tier or that level. Having somebody who has done it and being able to reach out to them must have been, for so many people, a incredible opportunity,
Yeah, I mean, like my time in the military, like really is where I discovered my enjoyment of instruction. Like, I'm not the best teacher, that by no means, but I do feel like I do a good job of breaking things down into a structured, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Yeah.
like a step by step process that people can then go follow. And I learned that during my time in the military, and then again I brought that kind of to this game, and then everything that followed after. And in Star Wars: The Old Republic, there was enjoyment for me, and not only was it the student, so to speak, learning and getting better, but it was me practicing as well and solidifying my skill and making sure that like any other skill, it's tangible. After a while, if you don't use it, it's just going to go away and
Yeah,
fade.
exactly.
So having somebody invite them onto my ship, which you can do, by the way, it's really
Oh,
cool.
nice.
You have a starship, but inviting them onto my ship and saying, here's the training dummy, just do what you're doing. And then with my knowledge, I can literally watch the animations that they're doing and know if they're doing it properly or not. And then that's when I would start to coach them. I'd say, you know what, you've got this daunting, 45 ability rotation. Let's do this. Let's break it down to the first 5.
Yeah.
Do it over and over and over again. And then once they've got it, now let's do the next 5. And I would literally spend an hour or 2 hours per person just going through and helping them and answering questions and doing that type of thing. And it was very rewarding. I loved it. It is one of the heights of my gaming career up until February 2nd.
Which we will definitely get to, don't worry. But like, I suppose to move this along into the next question is kind of like, I mean, we have talked at length about a lot of this stuff, but what do you think there is something, I think we've touched on it maybe to some extent, but do you think there is something that this game excels in more than any other game of its genre or of its type?
Absolutely. 2 of them.
Oh yeah.
So the first one is story, hands down story. Like when I say story, there are going to be people that are going to go into it same as they go into it with like the movies, right? Yeah. You'll go into it and you'll be like, there was some issues with that story, or this wasn't the strongest narrative or whatever. And there is a little bit of that. But for me personally, I'm a Star Wars fan. I like participating in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
So while I can say certain things have flaws or whatever, I would rather spend 2 hours to harken it back to a movie, spend 2 hours or whatever watching the Star Wars movies people really don't like as well than to watch something else.
Yeah. I'm the same.
Because I enjoy the universe that is Star Wars. And the stories in Star Wars: The Old Republic, some are stronger than others, but they're all stories that you get to drive and participate in, and be the hero of. And they do that better than any MMO I've played, and I've played a lot in my time playing MMOs. Their story, their narrative story for each class or each archetype is amazing. For all the reasons I said earlier, it's all voice acted and blah, blah, blah. The second one is combat flow.
Okay.
Now, one of the things, and I had a really hard time, Paddy, after I left Star Wars, here and there over time, because my wife plays WoW. She's a vanity player. She likes collecting. She likes getting the mounts, getting the transmogs, getting that thing. She's not like me. She's not competitive. But there have been times when, I'm like, I want to play with my wife. So I'll throw a 30-day subscription on WoW and I'll go play around. And one of the things I will always miss is the combat flow. In Star Wars: The Old Republic, if you don't hit a button, nothing happens. So in other MMOs, and I'm just going to kind of use WoW as an example, not to beat on WoW, okay, but just to give a very well-known example. In WoW, when you engage in combat with something, if you just don't hit any of your abilities, they just kind of do auto attacks, right? Yeah. There is none of that in Star Wars: The Old Republic. So you, the player, have to engage every ability, every movement. Everything has to be predetermined and pre-planned.
Okay.
So you've got 3 enemies you come up on. And I'll give kind of an example. You've got a couple of enemies you come up on. As a Jedi Knight, as a Sentinel, I would come into combat and force leap in. So you'd see my character like whoom, right across the map and like land on this guy and hit him in the face, right?
Yeah.
And then I could like force slow him or force push him. I could hit him with a couple of saber strikes and do almost like a force blast, almost like using the force, but you would take your sabers and you would smack them together and then like separate them, and a blast would come out and knock the opponent and stun them. I could then leap to the next one, hit that guy, and as the other guy's running up on me, I could turn around and saber throw him. Like it just felt so rewarding, so engaging. The animations, like all of the combat, the fighting, it was just so great. It was almost like an action game. You could turn off the UI and see nothing.
Oh, whoa.
And I did that a couple of times just to have fun. But like if you turn the UI off and you just play the game, it feels very actiony. It feels like the combat, the animations that they created for these different abilities feel very cinematic. And it's something you'd have to like go and play to really understand. But
which I will be doing.
Please do. It's a great game.
I will.
It just the flow of, to get back to what I was saying, the combat flow in this game. I have never seen another MMO, and I've played Guild Wars, Final Fantasy, WoW, DC Universe Online. I've played a lot. And the combat just feels good. And maybe it's because I'm biased and I'm a Star Wars fan, so it means more to me, but I don't know. But it just feels great. The combat flow feels great.
I don't believe it's a bias thing, because literally right behind you I can see a Green Lantern poster and a Green Lantern. So I don't believe poster that there's a bias here. So I don't believe, because I think you could have just as much of a bias about DC Universe Online, but obviously the combat just isn't on the same level. And I actually find this maybe even more compelling than the narrative stuff, if I'm being honest, because what I talk about a lot of the time, I love a compelling story. A compelling story is pretty much probably the thing I look for the most, but you can have an amazing story, but if the game feel isn't there, I say that game feel is everything. As a former designer myself, game designer, I'm like, if it doesn't feel good to play, if it feels clunky and nasty and just a bit off, I might forgive some of those games because they have amazing stories and play through them anyway, but I will probably never go back to them. Whereas if something can actually make combat feel like empowering, like the way you were describing it, I was like, you're a badass Jedi warrior, like,
Yeah, and so like with that, like it just really sucks you into the character that you're playing with the combat and the animations and the abilities. They did a very, very good job of that I've never seen in other MMOs ever.
Well, so similar to my first episode, I was going to ask why should somebody play it, but I really feel like there's no need to say that at this point. I'm going to move straight ahead to how can somebody play it, because
let me say this, Paddy. Let me say this on why you should play it. 2 things. 1, it's free. Why not play it?
True.
And 2, you get to live out your own story as you see fit in the Star Wars universe.
Which even stuff like, even KOTOR, which I absolutely love, like I'm a massive fan of Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, but even you are not playing as, you are playing as your own character, but it's still very predetermined about what's gonna, I know that it's still the same in this.
Yeah, it's very narrative driven.
Yeah, exactly, but it sounds like in this, I mean, the fact alone that you have these 8 different kind of, break it down into these 8 classes, like, or 8 character types, that's, I imagine that's like 1,000 hours worth of content just to get through each of their stories.
It is a lot. It is a lot. Now, the free-to-play models, it's one of the most restrictive free-to-play models I've ever seen. So to not put it on a pedestal the entire interview, it is one of the worst free-to-play models. But the reason I'm saying that is because your XP gain over time is very, very tied down, so to speak. You don't gain as much experience as you would if you were like paying $15 a month to sub to them, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of artificially inflated the time it would take you to go through these stories. But there is a lot, hundreds of hours of story there for you to do that you can do for free, like tons of stuff. And with the rise of Skywalker, it's all canon now.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And the only reason I say there's a sub asterisk there, but in the Rise of Skywalker, they released a book. In fact, it was the visual dictionary for Rise of Skywalker, which had the third Revan Legion.
Okay.
Because they have used Revan, and if you actually read through the book, it actually talks about Revan. That is now canon. So Revan is now canon. And in this game, they reference Revan a lot. Revan is very heavily in this game. Not to spoil anything.
Yeah.
That's not a spoil, believe me. Oh my God, the stuff with Revan's great.
I'm a huge Darth Revan fan. Like, I'm a Darth Revan fanboy.
Go play the game, because in the stuff you can do for free, you get to actually learn a lot of his background after Knights of the Old Republic. So this game takes place, don't quote me on this, I want to say it's like 300 or so years after the Old Republic games.
Yeah.
So after Satele and all that. So how is Revan alive? Go play the game and find out.
See, I have a friend. I have a friend who is a diehard Star Wars fan. Like me, loves the Knights of the Old Republic games. Like me, didn't play this game because he was like, I'm not a huge fan of MMOs. But I think even hearing that this is linked and is a sequel to, effectively a sequel to Knights of the Old Republic, would be enough to tip him over the edge to be like, yeah, you know what? Shit, maybe I should have given this thing a chance.
There is, in fact, one of the expansions that they came out with about a year before I ended up leaving the game was all to do with Revan. So Revan is very, very much a staple in this game, especially early on in the game. So I would highly suggest anyone that likes Revan go play this game.
Oh man! So, in terms of where it can be played, it's a strictly PC MMO?
Correct. As far as I know,
Yeah.
It is only PC. You can't play it on console. You can't play it on Switch or anything like that. You just download the game. It'll bring up their launcher. You can also do it in Steam. They recently released on Steam a couple of months back. So if you download it on Steam, it'll still launch Bioware's launcher.
Yeah.
And then you'll launch the game from that. But you can get it through Steam. But ultimately, yes, it's PC only.
But at least that does mean that you don't necessarily have to download Origin. That's always a good thing. So
yeah, it's actually like it is on Origin, but in the time that I played it, you never had to have Origin. It always launched on its own like solo launcher.
Yeah.
Maybe that's changed since I've played it.
I'm just gonna check out the Steam version. It's the easiest way always, and that's the thing. Again, if people are looking for like accessibility, if you have a PC and you have a Steam account, it's free. Check it out. It can't be any easier than that.
Nope, it's really, really simple.
So, Hayete, to kind of finish these up here, I want to talk a little bit about you and what you've been doing, because as I say, I came across you through a mutual friend of ours. CB Item Box raided you, and when he did, I was like, who is this? What's he doing? I was like, because I saw you had the splits, but they were different. I only knew speedrunners at that point. I didn't even
most
know
people think I'm speedrunning. Everybody thinks I'm speedrunning.
I didn't know what a challenge runner was or what you did, so I was like, what are his splits look weird? Zero? What? And then it was like talking to you. As I say, you're very forthcoming with explaining what it is you're doing. It's the reason I like CB as well. He'll explain, I had to come around this corner like that because... And that's so nice to somebody coming in who is... You're not making it this kind of elitist thing where like, I know this stuff and you don't. It's like, let me share my wisdom and knowledge with you. It's just... It's endearing as a viewer.
Yeah, that's always been my kind of thing, and to use slightly colorful language, you know how I can talk. It'll be more range back than that. But I've always found, in my time being in the top, 1%, so to speak, of these different games. A lot of like MMOs and competitive like Overwatch, things like that, a lot of people are kind of dicks.
Yep.
Like their attitude and their skill are not proportionate. They're
Yes.
like opposite. So like the more someone feels skilled, the more immature and dickish they seem to be.
Yep.
And I never wanted to be that. Everyone starts bad. Everyone starts not knowing it.
At anything.
And no one just comes up alone.
Yeah.
I didn't come up alone in any game. Someone helped me, someone taught me, someone did something that aided in my growth. And so like I always wanted to be that person. Like I like to be instructive, but I'm never going to put you down in what you don't know. I only want to lift you up in what you could possibly be. And if I can help in that journey and be a stepping stone in that, then my job is done, man. So yeah, that's kind of my approach is I like to teach. And luckily for me, time's not a factor. So I can take as long as I want, unlike CD. So
exactly. And that's the nice thing is you pause and show like. But yeah, I came in on you and you were playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Now this was only two coming on 3 months ago, and you'd been playing Fallen Order for about 5 months at that, 4 to 5 months at that point.
So I it's all kind of fuzzy because it all feels like it's been smushed together. But yeah, I would say about 5 months because it took me about 7 months to get the most recent run that we got. So yeah, I'd say about 5 months.
Which I just love saying this out loud, but like, which your most recent run is a world first. Which again, like we've said in the past about certain things, like it's unlike doing a speed run and hitting a certain like, okay, I got 44:32. There's somebody that can come along and get 44:31.
And that's why I don't speed run.
You like to just set the mark and be like, all right.
I'm so competitive. I'm such a competitive person that it would consume my whole life. If somebody beat me by 1 second, I would be like, okay, now I got to get back into that game and get my 1 second back or something like that. It would consume my whole life. And I know that about myself. That's why I do not speedrun.
But that's like, I have to say what I love is when you set a world first like that, it's nobody can come along and top it and beat it. Nobody can say, I know damage run 100% is better than you. It's like, that's not possible.
They might do it faster, but they'll never be the first.
Exactly. And but yeah, so you did Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I got to witness that. That's here on the channel. Well worth watching for the moment of joy when you got that world first. And then just the other night, from when we were recording this, you got world first after a month in Control from Remedy, which. It's insane.
So the Control run, so the Fallen Order run, the first run I did was the any percent no damage, and there's a lot of story behind why, but I ended up having to invalidate the first world first that I got. I had to invalidate it. And me along with another streamer who was challenge running at the time, Thunderceptor11, who was the guy, to give him a shout out, he was the guy who started challenge running in Fallen Order, period. He was the first guy doing it. I was the second. But both of us had to invalidate runs that we had. There's a long story behind that, but it just basically comes down to we thought something was not possible, and then one of the developers showed us we were stupid.
Oh no!
and we were like, oh, it is possible. Well, we're men of honor. Let's go and say these runs didn't achieve the intended goal, and let's redo them. So we went and redid them. But then after I got the any percent no damage, I went into that 100% no damage, and the 100% no damage took us 7 months.
Yeah.
Just because of various issues, not only creating the run and learning the run, but because of bugs and glitches and things that can happen as they do in any game. So that was a big deal. But in the background of me doing that 100% run, I had decided months in advance that I wanted to do Control.
Okay.
So in my spare time, I was working on it and developing it. I got it done in less than 3 weeks, believe it or not.
Oh, wow. It felt, when you said it's been a month, I was like, has it though? Because when did I release my video? Like, I was like...
Yeah, so the actual, like, me being on that run full time, so I got the 100% hardest difficulty, no damage run in Fallen Order on February 2nd. At the time of recording, this is the 27th. So we got it at the very beginning of this month. And then I took basically the rest of the week off. Me and my chat, we just kind of hung out, celebrated. I did some other things or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like that next following week, because we got it on a Tuesday. So I think the following Tuesday, we actually started Control.
Yeah.
So let's just say that's like the 9th or the 10th or something like that, right? And then we got this run on the 22nd. So it was, let's just say 2 weeks or so to get the run. But that was because there was a lot of work put in in the background off stream that people didn't see. So
yeah, of course. But I will say that, you see, one very interesting thing that I find about watching your runs and getting involved and kind of studying even a little bit, like just watching and kind of seeing how you're doing certain things. What I enjoy about it is that like because you were playing Control, I started playing Control because I got it free on PlayStation Plus, and I started playing it and I was like, I'm getting my ass handed to me by everything early on in that game. And then you're showing me that like, if you stay on this side of a pillar and you do this, you can... And my death ratio dropped massively once I kind of realized that. I was like, oh wow, I can kind of... It's not even an exploit because you're playing within the rules of the game. Like the game hasn't said, this is like off limits or something you shouldn't do. It's all within the confines of what the game allows in its design.
And that's one of my things, Paddy, is I don't challenge run games where like I'm skipping or glitching out of the bounds to get around a fight, or like my runs are always, the developers intend you to go a certain route, then that's how I go. But if the game is developed or programmed in a way that now I understand how the cogs turn and I can kind of manipulate those cogs to my favor, similar to that, like just understanding how the launch mechanic works, how the enemy AI aggression works based on what they can see of your body, then I use that. I feel like that's a valid strategy. So I've had quite a few people say that they've bought Control and Fallen Order. So Remedy and EA.
Sponsorship deals, no.
I mean, you don't have to give me any money. Just, when you release your next game, just reach out to me. I would love to play it. That's all I'll say on that. But I've had a lot of people pick up this game, Control and Fallen Order, because of what I was doing. And I've had a lot of people start challenge running these games because of what I was doing. And, with that new series, Teach Me How, that I'm doing, that's going to be even easier for people to have it, that knowledge accessible to them, even if I'm not around or they can't catch my streams.
Yeah. I mean, that's something I'll quickly touch on here is that, like, as per always, guys, there will be links in the description to check out Hayete's Twitch and also his YouTube, where, as he just said, he's going to be releasing a video series showing, like, tutorials and guides on how to do what he does, which is, again, almost an extension of that sharing of knowledge. And like, it's like, hey, don't even have to be around to catch me live. I'll now give it to you so you can... You're back to creating the guide in Star Wars The Old Republic again. Like, you're helping people out.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, that's what we've been doing with the Fallen Order run. I've been doing those guides, which you've seen. I've been, putting them out for each split, and not to say like this is the only way to do it, but it's more of me sharing with you guys why I did what I did and then how I did it. And just showing you what happened in the actual World First run so that you understand all of the stuff that's behind what you're seeing.
And like, it doesn't get any better than that, like being able to share that with the community and people, and that, so like, that is, I'm going to implore here again that people like check you out, especially if you're into, I was going to say especially if you're into challenge running and everything, but I mean, I think some people don't know if they're into challenge running because they've never seen it or never heard of it. It's become like a competitive sport for me now, like that I enjoy watching, because I'm not a big sport guy, so I now take more comfort in going on and watching. I mean, I've always kind of been into speedrunning, but like this is now, like, it's like I was into soccer and now I'm also into a little bit of American football as well. Like they're two different kind of sports that are kind of similar but different in so many ways. But yeah.
I never personally get super hyped until after I get the run. But when I watch other people about to get, world first or their runs done or a new speed run record, Dude, I'm like bouncing in my chair, man. So like, I fully understand the sentiment.
To close this out, I hope that this has swayed you into checking out the Old Republic. It has certainly swayed me. And I think so. If the objective of this episode is to get even one person to check the game out, I think you've succeeded. But hopefully, people watching this will give the game a chance, even if they've never been that much.
There's
into
no reason
MMOs.
not to. It's free.
It's free, exactly.
It's free.
And you can just if you don't like it, you can just delete it.
Exactly.
It's not for you.
Yeah, it's free, man. You have nothing to lose but time.
There's someone out there now saying, "Yeah, but I don't have the hard drive space."
That's a fair criticism. that's absolutely fair.
But no, and guys, like that, check out the Old Republic, check out Hayete, subscribe on his YouTube, please, because again, wait, there, yeah, stupid reverse camera. Subscribe on his YouTube, because again, it's just a great resource for, especially if you're a fan of any of these games. And Hayete, I will once again kind of like extend a massive gratitude to you for coming on and chatting with me today.
Thanks,
but also,
appreciate it.
Also for the months of enjoyable content that I stay up watching till 4 o'clock in the morning most nights.
You're a madman, dude. You're a madman.
Okay, that is the end of the second episode of The Hidden Gems. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you back here again very soon for more of this. And support awesome content creators, because generally it doesn't cost you a penny to do so. You can follow or sub or whatever, and it just helps people like us out. And on that note, I'll say what I always say at the end of everything that I ever do, which is let's survive together and peace out. Thanks so much, Hayete.
You got it, brother. Salute to you. Thank you.